Hello and welcome to That Man, That's Me Merchandise, and this is some manga. Hello and welcome once again to the manga part of That Man and his merchandise, in which we kind of have a look and see what's going on in the world of manga. Now, I've been reading a lot of Musume as of late, and I really enjoyed the anime. It started off as a guilty pleasure, then I realised if I like something, don't be guilty about it. Unless something that you like is illegal, then do be guilty about it. But at the end of the day, it's out to buy. You can pick it up at all good DVD stores, and this is the manga. And at first I was a little bit, it took us a while to see it. Oh yeah, I'll buy it. At first I was just like, I bought the first volume 2-3 years ago, and I was just like, I enjoyed it, but and I was like, I didn't really want to buy any more, and it took me a while to actually pick any more up. Then the past few months, ever since I've gotten the new room, I've got a lot more space, and like I said, this was actually one of the ones I was actually planning on getting rid of. I kept with it, and I read it again, and I was just like, yeah, it's fun. I got the anime, and I watched the anime again. It's fun. So I was like, yeah, I'll pick it up. So I am now on to volume 6, I believe. I know that we're up to like volume 13 or 14. So the idea is, once a week, possibly twice, we're going to be looking at Monster Musume, because I have this, and I also have this, at least for now, to discuss. Because, hey, if I'm reading it, I want to be able to discuss my thoughts and everything that's gone on with it almost straight away. So this has been done by Hokkaido? I do apologise, I can't pronounce things very well. And this is volume 1. Now, almost instantly you can kind of see a unique art style with this. We'll kind of have a look here. Very unique. Actually, it feels like quite an old series. I don't know if this is once a month. I'm not even sure how old this actually is. Does it say it on the back when it was actually 2012? So yeah, at this date, Monster Musume has been going on for 6 years. So 12 chapters a year. How many is in here? Let's have a look. It doesn't say. There's about 4 chapters, so that's about 2 volumes, 3 volumes a year. So 1 volume 14. So yeah, it's a once a month kind of dealio, and I believe we are actually more or less caught up in the English volumes. So as I go along, as I pick them up, I'll be discussing them as we go up, because I mean I'm on to volume 6, which is the end of where the anime is, and I also own volume 7, so brilliant. I've got at least another 6 what's out at the moment, and another 1 that's coming out very soon to catch up on. I'll do that as soon as I can. So volume 1 of Monster Musume introduces us to Darling. Not Darling in the Franxx. Darling. What's his? I can't remember what he's even called. I just call him Darling, or because he's like Darling or Sire or Boss or whatever, whichever one, because the girls all call him different names. And it starts off as it does in the anime. He is entwined with the beautiful snake girl Mia, and see, I say she's the girl on the cover. And as I go along, we are introduced to Papi and Centauria-san. And it's just falling on the floor. So yeah, Centauria-san, and it is pretty much the first volume, first 2 or 3 chapters of things. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's pretty much just episodes 1 and 2 of the anime, because like I said, they kind of dragged things out a little bit and had things done as and when needed with this. So yeah, I'm more than fine with that. Like you said, this is one of the reasons, I mean, I was kind of a little bit put off, because I mean, the anime when I first watched it, it was on Crunchyroll, so I was kind of like, oh, well, yeah, this is fun, but it's not overly bad. And when I watched the anime again, or it was the uncensored one, I was like, yeah, you see quite a lot. And this, originally I picked it up and I was like, oh shit, you can see everything. And it's like, they've got to explain stuff, like Pappy, it's like, oh, she's the same age as all the others, they just look different because she's a harpy, and I was just like, okay. But one of the things I love about this series is that I'm not a huge fan of harem series. I really am not. I mean, I like this, I like ReZero, which isn't really a harem, but kind of is, and I like Konosuba, which isn't really a harem, but kind of is. So this is the first true blue harem I actually liked in a long time. One of my first manga was Lohina, and I enjoyed Negima as well. I'm enjoying Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs because it's very much like this. But this was the first one, and at first I was just like, yeah, it's trashy, it's monster girls with big boobs and stuff like that. And at first I was just like, yeah, it's so stupid, I'm never going to like it. And so then I was like, oh no, I did. So yeah, it's basically the story of Monster Musume is a young boy called Kurisu Kimihito, see it's on the back, otherwise known as Darling, gets involved with a cultural exchange program in which monster girls from various worlds, various countries have been introduced into our world. So the cultural exchange program has it so, oh, these girls can come in and they can explore a human world, a human system. We don't see much of people going to them, which I'm assuming will be cleared up later on. And a lot of it's trying to go through of how these people are just not ordinary. And it very much focuses on these people are not ordinary citizens. And that's what I love. It really does tackle stuff like racism, because there is a hell of a lot of stuff like that in there. There is people there, they're just like on the streets, it's just like, ah, you're hanging out with a monster girl, oh, they're subspecies, or they can't do this because, I mean, let's face it, they've got monster bodies. Some of them can't even fit through doors. And it's like, yeah, look how they can't do this and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, look, it's a guy with a monster girl that obviously doing it. He's obviously into weird stuff. And it's really heartwarming of how they overtake stuff like that. And that's one of the things I really liked about the series, as well as the monster tits. But yeah, it's a fun series, and like I said, it goes stuff like that. I mean, there's a whole cultural exchange program. The whole idea is that they don't want to spark a war. They don't want to break things down, because they're classed as monsters that are instantly classed as inferior citizens. So it's like, if you monsters take out a human, that's it. There's going to be a disaster. The peace negotiations will just destroy, because you can't be trusted because you're monsters. And it's like, we instantly discovered that they're monsters in body only. These are just genuine, typical teenage young women. There's nothing really wrong with them. Their bodies are strange because they are from a world that isn't like ours. And that's one of the things I love. Now, there has been dozens of series, and one of them is actually included. You get the first chapter of A Centaur's Life. There's been dozens of series afterwards, including Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. We had Interview of Monster Girls. If you go into your local manga section, there's probably hundreds, or at least a few dozen, of these different monster girl type of things. Like I said, Yuna and the Hot Spring kind of does the same thing with yokai. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I can really recommend it if you like harem series. If you don't like ecchi series, you're not going to enjoy it. Personally, I like it. And it's like, Mia, Pappy and Centauria are all a lot of fun. And that's what really got me with this series, is that they are fun characters. Now, one of the things I tend to find with a lot of harems is that you have, oh, well, that's the angry one, that's the sleepy one, oh, that's the one who's really in love with him. And you kind of get that, but we also have other ones. I mean, we've got Pappy, who initially acts childish, but the reason being is that she's a bird brain because she's a harpy. Of course, it makes sense. We have Centauria, who is a noble, part woman, part horse, a centaur, and she's got the noble steed kind of thing, and the whole voice is like, well, thou shalt kill thine mother, and all that jazz. That's what attracted me to this series. That's what kept me staying. This is more than just an ecchi series. It's a fun ecchi series with characters that are more deeper, and it does tackle a lot more interesting stuff than you probably originally thought. So for me, I'm going to say if you can get past ecchi, definitely try this one out. It's worth it. That's it for me. Thanks for coming, and thanks again. Goodbye. Did you enjoy that? Well, we've got some other stuff on the site if you want to have a little bit of look. Nendoroids, gaming, One Piece merchandise, it's all kind of there. So if you click around here, you'll be able to subscribe or at least have a look on the channel. Also, there's some other things just around here. Thanks for coming and thanks again. Goodbye.